One of the interesting things about the Northern Ireland peace process is that in many ways the main driver behind it, behind all the calls for justice on one side and the truth of what had happened in terms of the terrorism on the other, one of the main drivers in the community is people were just war weary. There was this deep longing for peace. And it was that pressure that in the late 80s into the early 90s sort of built up to get people to move forward. And in the middle of that, there then becomes the space for encounters to start to happen where truth and justice can start to be woven together. And one of those truths that has to be faced is that in any community, particularly where the conflict has been going on over generations, right back to 1170 something in the case of Ireland, no one is without blame. No community stands apart from having done acts of incredible harm to the other. And even over the last 40 years, one of the truths that we find hard to address is the harm that we've done to each other. And for me, one of the most powerful moments of that realization was talking to an ex-IRA hunger striker who'd been on the Dirty protest, where they'd not only not eaten food, they'd not worn prison uniform, were in the blanket, and at one stage were putting their excrement on the walls of their prison cells. And he recognized that in his act of defiant protest, in what he thought his struggle for justice, that he received a lot of brutality from the prison officers. They had to come in. He received a lot of brutality from the prison officers. They had to come in, wash down the cell, wash him. But he had this insight that at the same time, he was dehumanizing them by forcing fellow human beings to come in and wash his excrement off the wall. And that realization that truth, when you actually look at what was happening in the interaction between people, opened up the capacity for compassion for the enemy, and therefore for mercy to begin to enter. Because that is the hardest bit. The hardest bit of reconciliation is forgiveness. So, reconciliation grabs you by the throat and says, those people who've done extreme harm to you, love them. Love your enemy. Bless those who've persecuted you. Reach out to those who've harmed you. And we can only do that when we have those moments of truth where we see their humanity, where we see that Christ died for them as well as for me, and that Christ's love and grace is available to them as much as it is to me. And that, to me, is at the heart of the Christian good news.